You can never seem to find the time for breakfast. You're always opting for fast food and convenient options at lunchtime, and you just don't know what to do when it comes to fueling yourself for your training sessions. Today I'm going to be answering all of these questions and putting them to bed for you, because today we're talking about how you can build your nutrition plan from scratch so that it works for you and works sustainably in the long run. My name is Sam Gerlin. I'm the founder of Gerlin Nutrition and the Nutritional Growth Blueprint. I'm a fully qualified nutritionist and I'm an online health and nutrition coach. And today we're going to be talking about exactly what I've just mentioned. It's a big part of what I do here at Gerlin Nutrition, building nutrition plans so that people can enter each and every day with the confidence that they can actually hit their health and fitness goals. Okay, we're going to be talking about how you can build healthy habits and really integrate certain techniques and strategies into your routine to get the best from yourself, your environment, and the people around you. So we're talking family members, friends, work colleagues, everything and all of the above. Okay, I've got a wee presentation here on my trusty little laptop. So I'm going to run through that while simultaneously talking to you here on the camera. I'm going to set up a little recording here. So let's get the camera set up. You might have to bear with me here. I'm not much of a technical guru. Here we go. Start recording. Let's see what we're dealing with here. Nice one. Happy days. Okay, so we are rolling on the presentation, and as I say, today we're going to be talking about how you can build your nutrition plan so that it works for you sustainably in the long run. We're going to be talking about the strategies that I use with my clients on the Nutritional Growth Blueprint, my 6-month program. If you'd like some more details about that and you're interested at the very start, you can check them down in the description below. But without any further ado, let's put the blue light glasses on, salt the barnet out, and let's get into this. Okay, when I say salt the barnet out, I mean salt the barnet out. Okay, let's get cracking. So the very first thing that you need to do when you're building your nutrition plan or any sort of training plan, structure, if you're trying to build out a routine, is that you need to assess, where you are at baseline. The foundational sort of assessment to discover where you truly are, because you can't change what you don't understand. So you need to delve in and ask yourself the questions that identify, what your current habits are, what your lifestyle's like, what your routine requires, certain nutrition patterns that matter for you, where your fitness level's at, what your fitness goals are, where your mindset is at with these things. What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? What's your personal history with certain foods and certain, meal times? Do you tend to struggle with breakfast? Do you tend to struggle with dinner? You really need to bring all of this to the surface. And this is exactly what I do with the Nutritional Growth Blueprint Health Assessment. The idea is just to, get to the bottom of all these questions, bring them to the surface so that you can, identify and uncover those blind spots and patterns so that you understand what the best approach is going to be for you. Okay, I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by this now. I've already mentioned the idea about, discovering what your daily routine is and what it requires. So I'm going to use a tangible example here. Let's say you work a very busy 9 to 5. You get home, you have to take, perhaps you have to take the kids to, football. And then you're training between, 8 and 9 o'clock in the evening. You don't get to bed till 10, and you've realistically got to be up at 7 o'clock. Okay, so you get home at 10 o'clock, you shower, you might have a quick, protein shake to kickstart that muscle recovery process. And you've got your 8 hours of sleep. You're prioritizing your sleep. You want to get 8 hours, so you're waking up at 7 o'clock. Okay. Now that tells us an awful lot about your routine and how you can structure your nutrition plan, because realistically, that your first meal of the day is going to be somewhere around 7:30, 8 o'clock, ideally. Okay. And then let's say, you work the 9 to 5, so you're going straight off to work. You only get an hour's lunch break. Okay. So that's not realistically, enough time to, go home and cook yourself something or whatever else. So you need to be prepared and you need to plan in advance so you can start looking at things like batch cooking and meal prepping. You can start to see how this all sort of starts to unfold and informs, the best approach that you can take for yourself. So yeah, the idea here is, assess from bedtime all the way through to your training and when you get to take breaks at work, assessing the typical structure of your day and your week, and offering insights, into how you can really structure your plan around this. Okay, so it's about reverse engineering, recognizing the opportunities in your day to week based on the tasks that you need to complete each and every day. That boils down to breakfast, that boils down to lunch, around your training, around dinner, any snacks that you need, how you're going to stay hydrated. We can really boil this down to, the very minor details which make a difference in the long run. Then you need to identify your food preferences. So a big part of that health assessment form that I mentioned at the very start, when I send that to my clients, they'll tell me exactly which foods they like, exactly which foods that they don't like, which is equally important. And what I'd advise for you is to identify 3 whole food sources of carbohydrates, proteins, fruits, and vegetables. Identify your top 3 and really start to structure your meal plan around these foods, because at the end of the day, you're not going to make any sustainable change, any lasting progress with your nutrition if you don't enjoy the foods that you eat. That's so important. Yes, if your palate is very limited and you don't like very many foods, I will actively encourage you to always experiment with foods, try different flavor combinations, try different ways to process the food. So if you don't like boiled potatoes, try mashed potatoes, or perhaps try to make them into some air fried wedgies, or just try different solutions. But certainly identifying the foods that you like and the foods that you don't is going to be so important for forming the basis of your meals and the structure that you adopt throughout the week. This is one of the most important things, because the research evidence shows again and again, regardless of what diet nutrition plan you follow, if you can't keep it up, you're never going to make real, lasting, sustainable, genuine change. Okay, so you've got to make it work for you. You've got to enjoy what you're eating. It's so important. If this, perhaps if there's one thing that you take away from this video, let it be this one. Okay, because we can sometimes sort of wing it. Once we know what we're doing, what behaviors we should be following, we can sort of make it up as we go along to a degree. I'm not going to advise that, but if you're eating foods that you don't like, you're never going to make lasting change. So really important, this one. Then, once you've identified the routine, the structure of your week, you've reverse engineered, you've identified the foods that you're going to be preparing, the foods you like, the foods you don't like, this is where my SMARTS framework of goal setting comes in. Okay, so I've spoken about this previously on the channel. I've spoken about it a lot over on Instagram. If you'd like to check out my Instagram, you can find it in the description down below once again. But the idea behind this SMARTS goal framework is to really know your why and the purpose behind everything that you're doing. So it's no good having a nutrition plan if it's not attached to some sort of higher purpose. Okay, so getting very clear on your why and your objectives that are going to meet those goals is super important. Now, I won't get into the details of my framework here too much. You can see what the acronym stands for there. It's very similar to some existing goal setting frameworks, but I feel like there was a few pieces missing that I've chucked in there. Most notably, systemization. So actually incorporating the systems, which we'll touch on next here. There should be relevant on there as well. I've just realized that I'm missing an R in the framework there, but you get the point. If you'd like to see me make a real in-depth video on this exact framework, just let me know in the comments down below. I've made videos touching on it previously, but let me know in the comments if you'd like me to really break this down so that you can take this into your nutrition planning. But just some tangible examples here. If your goal is endurance performance, you need to start considering how many carbs you should be hitting each day to fuel your performance. So, if you're training for a triathlon and, you're training sometimes 2-3 hours a day, yeah, you could probably go out there and, do 2-3 hours of exercise and sort of, come away feeling fine. But it's so important to fuel up on carbs for things like recovery, and to really push your performance. If you've got a strength session or, another endurance session the next day, it's going to affect your performance if you don't take on the right amount of carbohydrates. So dialing in things there. And if you go with fat loss, establishing what your maintenance calories are, where your requirements sit, and then planning around like a higher protein diet on a calorie deficit to really, encourage that sort of fat loss. Okay, so that's just a couple of tangible examples that you might use when it comes to setting your SMARTS goals. Then it's about building the system. I've just mentioned that S in SMART, so the final S on the end of the acronym there is building the system. So this is where we start to incorporate things like habit setting. Again, this is a massive thing that I talk about on the program itself with my clients. I run them through not only how they can set goals, the SMARTS framework, but how they can then set habits to make achieving those goals easier. Okay, a quote from James Clear in the book Atomic Habits, game-changing book, is you rise to the level of your systems, not necessarily your goals. Get your systems in a good place. It'll make it a lot easier for you to achieve these health and fitness goals. Okay, so we're looking at things like habit stacking. Okay, so you identify things that you do every day and you attach a behavior to those existing habits to make them slightly easier, and then they become more routinous and ingrained into your routine. Also looking at things like environment design. So, if you know that you struggle when there's chocolate in the drawer, don't bring the chocolate into the house. Leave it at the supermarket. Don't go shopping at the supermarket whilst you're feeling hungry. Make sure you eat before you go to the supermarket, so you're not tempted to buy those temptations, those chocolate bars, those sweets, those crisps, whatever it may be for you, whilst you're shopping. Similarly, make sure that you're placing fruit on the table as opposed to, a bowl of sweets, or, honey roasted nuts, which, is one for me personally. I love a honey nut. So they tend to get me. So yeah, it's just building little things like that. And this is where we also start to look at, okay, what meal planning strategy works best for you? Because I've come to a point now where, yes, I appreciate how busy life can get. I appreciate we've all got jobs. I appreciate we all want to train. I appreciate that some of us have got kids to look after and responsibilities. But using those variables as an excuse, I can no longer buy it, because I think that there's always a way. If the goal that we have set means enough to us, which is something that, again, I talk about, really attaching a higher purpose. If you really genuinely want to make change, attaching it to that purpose, you can have no excuses. It's not about your job or your responsibilities. It's about how you can work around that and plan and prepare in a way that sets you up for success. So we're looking at strategies like, I've mentioned meal prepping. That might be, you find yourself with a bit of extra time on a Sunday. Okay, I'm going to cook my lunches and my dinners for Monday to Thursday, because on Thursday I know that I get afternoons. My afternoons are a little bit more free, so I can prep for Friday to Sunday. Okay, that's one example. Or it may be a matter of, you get more time in the evenings, so when you cook dinner, you cook enough for lunch the next day. It might be batch cooking. Again, you might find that Saturday is an opportunity for you to actually cook some meals. You might cook enough for 8 servings, put 4 in Tupperware for Sunday through to Wednesday, and put the other 4 in the freezer so that they're batch cooked and ready for you to pull out at a time where you need them most. That's another strategy that you might use. There's so many little bits and pieces that we can integrate here when we're building the system and setting these sorts of habits. Okay, time blocking that I've thrown on the end there is another one that works for some people, doesn't work for me personally, but actually, breaking your day and your week and your month up into time blocks where you can really start to implement these things. Okay, moving on. Once you've built the system, once you've set your goals that inform that system, once you've identified your food preferences and your routine that inform those goals, that inform that system, it's about refining and repeating from there. I've used this sort of analogy a lot. Try, test, and iterate. Okay, so you try something out, you test it for a while. If it doesn't work, you iterate. It's about staying agile and flexible. You've seen these words that are thrown around. It's about being consistent with it. So yes, I'm encouraging flexibility here, but be consistent with the flexibility. Try, test, and iterate. It's important to combine both data and feeling as well. So you can see here on the program, we can really delve into, the analysis of macronutrient distribution, where our fats are coming from, where our carbohydrates come from. This is something that, as a nutritionist, I will do for my clients. I'm not telling you to go away and sort of analyze things in this sort of way, but this is the sort of data that I can provide for my clients. and that really informs some awareness. But a metric that you can use is just your subjective feeling. How is this plan making you feel? Do you feel stressed at any point? Do you feel like you're lacking time to do certain things? Might need a tweak if that's the case. Okay, so we often don't know why we're doing something, which makes it so easy to fall off. So having data and having that subjective analysis, you might take notes, keeping a food diary. This is another thing that I provide on the program. You can actually get that for free if you join my school community. So I'll leave the link to the school community down below as well, so you can go and check that out. Totally free resource. There's lots of other, little insights into the nutritional growth blueprint down there. So do be sure to sign up there. It's a community full of my clients and, people who have signed up just like you, like-minded people who can, utilize, the free resources from the nutritional growth blueprint. It's like a little look behind the doors into the NGB. So you can check that out. NGB meaning nutritional growth blueprint. So you can check that out. And a big part of this process as well, I should add, is, educating yourself and anchoring these things in a bit of accountability. So that could be a coach, but the purpose of this video is for you to come away with an idea of how you can do this on your own. I'm giving you the tools here to sort of make your nutrition plan alone before you sort of, decide to commit to a coach like myself. But grounding it in some accountability, that might be a friend that you choose to share the journey with. It might be your partner. It might be your family. But making sure you do this together can really help. But educating yourself as you go, this whole refinement and repetition can really contribute to that education, because you start to learn what works for you and what doesn't. You've got to take action. You've got to do these things. You only learn by doing, in my experience. So that is the final step in the process of building your nutrition plan. Let's run through it one more time just here very, very quickly. Starting from the top, where we've got our baseline assessment. You need to uncover those blind spots, identify patterns in your routine that will inform, the best approach for you to take. On the nutritional growth blueprint, we do have the health assessment form where all of these questions are asked to you, so that you can send them off to me and I can, unpick the areas and spot the patterns for you. Okay. Then it's about identifying what your daily routine is. Again, we've touched on that very, very briefly. That's exactly what the baseline assessment tells us, from what time you wake up to what time you go to sleep to what time you typically train, how long you get for break at lunch, and we can reverse engineer these variables to spot opportunities in your day to set up, the best plan for you for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. Are you going to intermittent fast because it works best for you? How are you going to fuel around training? How are you going to snack? Whatever it may be. Then we're looking at food preferences. Again, just a takeaway tip. This is the one thing that I'd like you to take away, if nothing else from this video. Eat the foods that you like. It's going to make your life so much easier, believe me. But identify your 3 favourite whole food sources of carbohydrates. That might be sweet potato, that might be quinoa, that might be whole grain rice. Then you're looking at protein, so you might identify 3 meats: chicken, pork, beef, fish, salmon, sea bass, prawns. And then other sources of protein might be lentils, chickpeas, butter beans, something like that, okay? And then fruit, apple, pear, banana, vegetables. Why can't I think of any vegetables here? What's going on? Broccoli, cauliflower, peas. 3 terrible examples there. Why can't I think of any veg? But yeah, you get the point. Food preferences is next on the list. Also, make sure you identify the foods you don't like. You want to be steering away from them. Again, I encourage you to try foods all the time, experiment with things, try different ways to process them. But if you really don't like a food, don't force yourself to eat it. Then you can set your SMARTS goals. Make sure they're specific, measurable, achievable, realistic. The other R on there is relevant, time-bound, and systemized. When I'm talking systemized, I'm talking about how we can set up our routine to really contribute to those goals, make it second nature, make it feel like you don't even have to try with these sorts of things. So it's about environment design, habit stacking, time blocking, all those things that we've just touched on. And then it's about refining, repeating, iterating that whole process. But that is how you can build your nutrition plan without the help of a coach, okay? If you have any questions for me, be sure to drop them in the comment section down below, or drop me a DM over on Instagram. I've already told you that you can find my Instagram account in the description down below once more. If you've seen this video and, you know, something's caught your eye, or, you know, you feel like you would like a little bit of help to get there, you know, you're not fully confident just yet to go out and do it on your own. By the way, I would encourage you first to try it on your own before you go for a coach. Give it a go for a couple of weeks. If you feel like you need some help after that, once more, there is a link in the description down below which will tell you a lot more about my services, what I offer as a coach, how I can help you integrate these sort of strategies and techniques to make your nutrition plan sustainable for you. Because at the end of the day, my whole philosophy is around educating. So I want to make sure that any client, any person that I work with comes away with the sort of toolkit and the enhanced knowledge needed to take the 6 months on the nutritional growth blueprint into the rest of their life. Okay, so that they can adopt these sort of processes. To me, it's an investment in the rest of your life if you do choose to go down that route, but try it yourself first. I really do genuinely mean that. But that is the end of this video. I'd really appreciate it if you could drop a like, comment and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video, of course. If you haven't, let me know. Let me know what I've done wrong. But yeah, stick around. As I say, hit that subscribe button because I am dropping 2 to 3 YouTube videos every single week. So there's lots of value coming. If there's anything specific you want to see, do let me know. But other than that, thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. I really do appreciate your time. You're an absolute legend, and I'll see you on the other side in the next one in a bit.